They say that everything that comes as a gift carries a curse too. The Motown record label is no exception. While it is no secret that it opened doors for many young talents and played a significant role during the era of racial segregation, it also has a dark side, and in some cases the culprits were the very artists themselves. Many of them lived hard-knock lives, facing poverty, violence, and devastating illnesses. But was it all self-inflicted, or was it by design? Here are the top 10 tragic stories of some of Motown's biggest stars. 1. Tammy Terrell. Born and raised in Philadelphia, Tammy Terrell became one of Motown's most prized assets when she teamed up with Marvin Gay to deliver some of the most iconic love songs of all time, including Ain't No Mountain High Enough and You're All I Need to Get By. They were a match made in musical heaven, and many even believed they were romantically involved. But while she and Gay always struck the right notes together, the men in her personal life did her great harm. Before joining Motown, Tammy worked with the godfather of soul, James Brown, who was also her lover. She even released the single I Cried, a title that reflected the tumultuous nature of their relationship. Unfortunately, after moving to Motown, she found herself in yet another abusive relationship, this time with Temptations singer David Ruffin. Their romance was volatile, and rumors long circulated that Ruffin caused Terrell's death by hitting her with a motorcycle helmet. In reality, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor, discovered after she collapsed in Marvin Gaye's arms on stage. She underwent 8 surgeries which impaired her memory and left her partially paralyzed. She was only 24 when she passed away. 2. Marvin Gay. Known as the Prince of Motown after marrying into the Gordy dynasty, Marvin Gay was a brilliant singer and songwriter whose music touched hearts across generations. He turned his voice into an aphrodisiac with Let's Get It On, captured the widespread anxieties of the Vietnam War in What's Going On, and championed environmental awareness in Mercy, Mercy Me. But the beauty he created stood in stark contrast to the turmoil in his personal life. His childhood was traumatic, his preacher father was strict and often abusive. Marvin's decision to leave the church and pursue what his father called the devil's music only deepened their rift. The death of his duet partner Tammy Terrell, his divorce from Berry Gordy's sister, and frustrations with the Motown label sent him into a downward spiral. Struggling with financial troubles and paranoia, he believed people were after him. Tragically, just a day before his 45th birthday, he was shot and killed by his own father during an altercation at their home. 3. Shorty Long. The multi-talented Shorty Long, best known for his hit Here Comes the Judge, was a gifted artist who played multiple instruments, including piano, organ, drums, harmonica, and trumpet. He also worked as an MC for many Motown review shows and co-wrote several of his songs. In fact, he was one of the only Motown artists besides Smokey Robinson who was allowed to produce his own recordings in the 1960s. However, on June 29, 1969, tragedy struck when he drowned in the Detroit River after a freighter flooded his fishing boat. He was only 29 years old. 4. Florence Ballard. Florence Ballard was the driving force behind the formation of the Supremes, originally called the Primettes. Alongside Diana Ross and Mary Wilson, she helped catapult the group to international fame, making them Motown's most commercially successful act and the most successful American vocal group of all time, with 12 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. However, beneath the glitz and glamour, Ballard's life was filled with heartache and betrayal. At 15, she lost her father, and at 17, she was molested by an acquaintance she had trusted for a ride home. The trauma left her struggling with trust issues. She dropped out of high school, and when Motown began favoring Diana Ross as the group's lead singer, Ballard turned to alcohol for comfort. Her increasing absences from performances and recordings led to her being fired from the group. A failed solo career, financial struggles, and a lawyer who allegedly embezzled her money left her in dire straits. She ended up on welfare, and her downfall became fodder for the tabloids. Just as it seemed she was getting her life back on track, she suffered cardiac arrest caused by a coronary thrombosis and passed away on February 22, 1976, at the age of 32. 5. Paul Williams. In the famous Temptations' Fantastic Five, Paul Williams was the mastermind behind the group's choreography. The signature dance moves seen in the Temptations and even other Motown groups like the Supremes were his creations. He was a dedicated and disciplined young man, the only member who originally did not drink alcohol. However, everything changed when his health began to decline due to sickle cell anemia. As his condition worsened, his role in the group was reduced, leaving him frustrated. This pushed him down a path of self-destruction, and he began drinking heavily. His stamina and respiratory health deteriorated, making it impossible for him to perform. Eventually, he was forced to leave the group. 2 years later, Paul parked 2 blocks away from Motown and allegedly took his own life following an altercation with his then-girlfriend. He was only 34 years old, and to this day, the circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery. 6. David Ruffin. David Ruffin's entrance into the Temptations helped propel the group to superstardom. From My Girl to Ain't Too Proud to Beg to I Wish It Would Rain. His raw, raspy tenor voice and electrifying stage presence made him unforgettable. But his brilliance as a performer was overshadowed by his troubled life. Raised by a strict and sometimes abusive Baptist minister father, Ruffin endured a childhood marked by poverty. His adult relationships were often abusive, and his extravagant, pimp-like lifestyle was a way to mask deep-seated insecurities. His downfall began when he started questioning Motown's financial records. As a result, he was kicked out of the Temptations. Though he found some success as a solo artist, his drug addiction derailed his career. In 1991, at the age of 50, Ruffin allegedly collapsed in a crack house and died shortly after being taken to the hospital. While some say he was responsible for his own demise, others believe there is more to the story than meets the eye. 7. Eddie Kendricks. Eddie Kendricks' soaring falsetto was a defining element of the Temptations' golden years, leading hits like The Way You Do the Things You Do, Get Ready, and Just My Imagination Running Away With Me. However, like David Ruffin, his conflicts with Motown's leadership led to his departure from the group. He struggled to regain success until he began touring with Dennis Edwards and David Ruffin. Tragically, their project was cut short in 1991 when Ruffin died of an alleged drug overdose. Kendricks and Edwards continued performing, but later that year, Kendricks was diagnosed with lung cancer, likely caused by 30 years of smoking. After undergoing surgery in late 1991, he resumed touring through the summer of 1992. However, on October 5, 1992, he succumbed to lung cancer at the age of 52, just 1 year after losing his close friend David Ruffin. 8. Our Benny Benjamin. The hard-partying drummer Benny Benjamin, nicknamed Papazita, was the driving beat behind Motown's signature sound. As the primary drummer for the Funk Brothers, his talent was unmatched. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2003 and was ranked the 11th greatest drummer of all time by Rolling Stone in 2016. Despite his musical genius, Benjamin battled drug and alcohol addiction throughout the late 1960s. On April 20, 1969, he suffered a fatal stroke at the age of 43. 9. Jameson. While Benny Benjamin was Motown's greatest drummer, Jameson was its greatest bassist. Described by Berry Gordy as a genius on the bass and an incredible improviser, Jameson played a crucial role in shaping the Motown sound. His work can be heard on classics like You Keep Me Hanging On by the Supremes and Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. Despite his immense contributions, Jameson remained largely unrecognized and struggled with obscurity. He turned to alcohol, which led to severe health problems. Toward the end of his life, he spent time in hospitals and mental institutions. Adding insult to injury, his beloved Fender Precision bass was stolen shortly before his death. On August 2, 1983, he passed away from complications related to cirrhosis, heart failure, and pneumonia. 10. Mary Wells. Before 1962, Motown had never produced a top 10 hit. That changed when Mary Wells broke through with My Guy. 2 years later, the song became Motown's first #1 single. With her sweet, upbeat voice, Wells became the queen of Motown. But her personal life was far from cheerful. At just 17, she married Motown background singer Herman Griffin, but their relationship was tumultuous and they divorced in 1963. A year later, she parted ways with Motown, feeling that the company had underpaid her. Unfortunately, her career never recovered after leaving the label. She continued to endure ill-fated relationships, including marrying Cecil Womack and later having an affair with his brother. Consumed by guilt, she attempted to take her own life. Later, she became addicted to heroin. A heavy smoker as well, she developed laryngeal cancer, which destroyed her voice. Unable to perform, she fell into financial ruin, struggling to afford medical treatment and even facing eviction. Though celebrities and fans tried to help her financially, nothing could save her. On July 26, 1992, at the age of 49, Mary Wells passed away from complications related to cancer.